Welcome back, FORTituders. We got us a show for you today. We are your humble servants at FORTitude. We are Brenton Payne and J.W. Wilson. Thanks for tuning in. While there's much news to consider, Brenton Payne, some good, some not so good in the world, we attempt to bring you a unique and positive form of that version.
That was a nice delivery of the word unique there.
Unique, yeah. Yes. This is football season. You probably don't know that, Brenton, but it is football season.
Heard.
You've heard? Well, today in studio we have a good one. We have a legend in the house. One of our buds, one of TCU's legendary linebackers. Before we show you his face, though, I think we got to talk about you being back in service.
Yeah, I've just got a little tickle in my throat from the COVID virus that I caught.
And we went by your house with your wife's permission, took a picture of your bedroom while you were out during COVID, just the isolation.
Simple work of my mind. I had some time on my hands to do a couple of exercises, so that's actual footage.
You're indeed in a beautiful mind, sir. Yeah. So welcome back to the show, buddy. Good to have you back.
Thank
Glad
you.
You're okay. The next little video should be the best intro to this man you could ever have, because here it is right now.
3 yards away from a tie.
We're watching it.
Brent, do you know who the team in the red pants is?
Not a clue.
SMU?
Left.
Oh, Wisconsin.
Watch the middle linebacker right there.
Completely covered up the blitz. They slid right into it. Had nowhere to go. But I jumped.
The voice you're hearing, Brenton, is the greatness of one Tank Carter.
Thanks for being here,
Welcome
Tank.
to the show,
Thanks
Tank.
Yes.
There he is coming off the field. That play, folks, is the 2-point conversion for Wisconsin. That was the team Wisconsin, Brenton. They were trying to tie the game. We were up 21-19. There's Tank. Boom. What was the play called, Tank?
It was S-Dogs. I
S-Dogs.
think it was 12 on our play card.
Number 12.
No kidding.
It's been a long time ago.
Is
But,
that's what you were supposed to do exactly?
So when I was supposed to blitz, I was supposed to be a free blitz, but they slid the coverage, the pass protection coverage right into it, and there was just nowhere to go. So I just stopped, and I remember shoving Stans in his back. Mapanga just completely pushed him right on the ground and stopped and just jumped, and it was there.
Yeah. So you were able to see the quarterback about to throw that? I mean, right then? Or
I don't know, man. It was
so
kind of
fast.
instincts.
Yeah.
I stopped, couldn't go nowhere, so I just looked right at the quarterback. He threw it right in my face, so I knocked it down.
Yeah.
Well, back to the intro. Welcome to the show, Tank. We're big fans. We're friends. We're glad you're here. We want to talk about you for a little bit, if you'll let us. That play, you lived it before the play happened. What do you think? If you've told the story, I'm sure, a million times, can you tell it 1,000,001?
No, man. I mean, it was honestly thinking back to that game. People were like, what was the atmosphere like? What was this? And it was almost like a blur. I felt like the game happened so fast. They were just so locked in the whole game. And then came down to that last play, and I feel like, I know that's kind of what I'm known for in Fort Worth, is that one play. Everyone's like, that Rose Bowl, that play, when you got that interception, it's like I knocked it down. But but no, it was a lot of fun. What the funniest thing about that play was everyone was supposed to be cheering and happy, and Coach Patterson was yelling at Alex Aboye because he was supposed to be on the complete opposite side of the field covering the number 3 guy who was wide open in the end zone.
And he was open indeed?
Yeah, he's wide open.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex. I don't mean
That's
to throw you
okay.
under the bus,
I think
bro.
Alex has probably made peace with
Was
that
the whole
mistake.
experience, though, I mean, a blur? Like, was it just kind of so intense?
Well, I mean, I just feel like the game, like I can remember walking out of the tunnel, and I looked up and kind of looked at the crowd, and I don't remember the crowd the whole rest of the game. It was just, focus, I guess. But it's probably one of the highlights of my career.
Right.
Definitely.
The consensus from the fans, that Wisconsin was running the ball effectively that game. They stopped running the ball like they were. No one really knows why they stopped running the ball, because it seemed to be somewhat working for them.
Sure.
Any thoughts on that and why the game turned out?
Man. I mean, I just knew on that last play. I mean, I think we even had, a big set in for defense, and then they called, it was shotgun, 11 personnel, and they split the tight end out a little ways. It might have been the fullback, but they just kind of spread everybody out, and we were like, all right, this is going to play right into our hand, and sure enough, it did.
The crazy part about this, Brenton, and you probably know enough to understand this, but for TCU fans in general, this is probably one of the biggest moments of their life, the winning of the Rose Bowl, right? So people were there will tell you it's top 5, top 3, top 10 moment of their whole life, just watching this moment. I've heard this story 100 times if I've heard it once. What the crazy thing about it is that you live this, and how does one celebrate a moment like that? Obviously it was a great moment, but we all lived it from our perspective. It was a great day. How does one go through this afterwards?
I mean, honestly, a lot of people in Fort Worth, that was kind of the defining moment for me, for them. For me, my favorite play still to this day was when we played on college game day against Utah at home. And I had that pick six from like the 15-yard line or so, whatever it was. That's still my favorite play of all time, but
that was a good one.
After the Rose Bowl, I mean, it was, I don't know, kind of like solidified in the galore TCU, I guess, so it was, I don't know, it's been good. I always just kind of going away from football, but I've just always kind of wanted to be known as everything except football, I guess,
Right.
Yeah.
But, it's always been football and it's been great, but I just don't they always say, don't let football define you.
Sure. How did you celebrate that night?
What's funny is we were actually, and I had my son was right at a year old, maybe year and a half old, had him in school. And I'm leaving to go to dinner with my wife now, her parents and my parents, and we're going to have dinner. And all my buddies, they're all suited up. They got all their gear on. They got their nice shoes, their hair slicked back, and they're going out to party like, yeah, having a good time. And I'm pushing the stroller out like, you guys have a good time. I see you.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But that was after the game for me,
I have information for you from the 6th grade at the school our kids go to. My daughter says the girls think your son's one of the cuties.
Is it Colt or Cash?
Whatever's in both in 6th grade.
Yeah, that's Cash.
I can't tell you that answer yet, but I assume it's probably both if I had to guess. But
what's funny is I guess the first week he was at school, we put some cash in the front of his bag, I guess to get snacks or something, whatever it is. And he didn't know that we put it where we put it. So there was this girl at school that was like, here, I'll help you out. Well, that little girl stayed down the street in our neighborhood, and she is going to her little girlfriend's house or whatever, and she sees us like, oh, hey, Cash, hey. And I'm like, who's that dude?
Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
Nice.
It's funny.
So let's back up the story real quick. You're a Sweeney, Texas guy. Originally, you didn't first start off. Most people know this, I think, that have followed you for a while, but football wasn't your thing at first. It was BMX bicycling.
Yeah.
So 10-year-old, you win the BMX World Championship. How did all that happen for you?
So, I mean, I started riding when I was probably three. I actually rode my bike up and down the street when I was 2 years old. That's when I started riding without training wheels. I mean, it's, how you kind of make it seem like you remember the moment when you took the training wheels off, but it's because everybody's telling you the story. And then you're just like, no, I remember it, but I feel like I remember asking my older brother, he's like 15 years older than me. And I was like, take these training wheels off. And as soon as he took them off, I just took off down the road. And this old man down the street, we called him Pappy Mac, and he had McDowell Downs was the racetrack. And he was, you ever raced bikes before? And I'm like 4 years old, so I don't know what he's talking about. And he walks down to my house and asks my dad, bring him out to the track, all this. And that's kind of how it started.
Nice.
And then
did you do that competitively?
I did. I got on a team sponsored basically when I was 5. I think it was 4 or 5 for the first time. And then started going to nationals. The team that I raced for started paying for me my flights to go all over the country. Really, it was more from Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, west.
Yeah.
It was more of a Western thing at that time.
Yep.
But started doing that when I was 4 or 5 and started winning, and I didn't look back.
So how you travel the country?
Oh yeah. So
outside the country?
Only once, just when I raced in France.
Okay.
So I raced 4 or 5, started racing pretty much competitively when I was 5. So I won the national title. There's a world championship, which is still a national title in the United States. And there's the Grands, which is another national title. I won that. I won both of those like 5 years in a row, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old.
No kidding.
And I was like done. And it took up all my time. I couldn't play no sports. I didn't have no time with my friends. I was always traveling. I had school during the week. And on sometimes Thursdays, come home on Mondays, I would leave to go to these nationals all over the nation. So I didn't have any time for sports and I wanted to quit. And when I was 9, I told my manager, I actually told my parents talked to my manager and everything. It was like, I want to be done racing bikes. I want to be a kid.
Yeah.
And he was like, come back one more year and, race the season. Then I'll take you to France and see if you can win like a world title. So came back, raced, won the world championship for the U.S. again, the Grands again. And then he took me to France. I mean, I raced against guys from China, Argentina, just all over the world, and got first in that. And then I quit and hung it up.
That was when you were
10 years old.
10 years old?
Yeah.
Are we talking the BMX where you're jumping dirt jumps and things like that nature?
So I guess taking a look at it like motocross,
Yeah.
except it's not laps. It's one from start to finish. First one to you out of the gate. You got rhythm sections, jumps, doubles, triples, tabletops, all the way through, and the track's kind of zigzagging. And then first one to get to the finish line wins.
Dude, a lot of those guys, they graduate to BM or to motocross from that, or no?
For the most part,
in that.
I mean, there's guys that I'm sure did, but for the most part, you just kind of worked your way up, and then you became, single A pro, double A pro, and then you got paid to do it.
How long does one race last? Typically, like when you're 10.
So they're anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 feet is a track, and I mean, I think the long tracks back in the day, kind of remembering, it's like 2,800 feet were like the long tracks.
So is that like a couple minutes?
I'd say a minute and a half.
Nice.
Yeah,
But you're pedaling the whole time, right?
You're getting after it. There's some video on YouTube that my mom put up of me kicking some butt.
Our crack research team missed that video, but we'll find it sometime. Yeah. So when you were 13, you got involved in a car wreck. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yep. So I was actually started training to get back into bike racing, and I think I didn't race any nationals, but I was actually out in California training, coming back and forth, doing camps and stuff with my old team and my old manager and everything.
Was that your choice? Did you miss it?
Yeah. I kind of wanted to get back into it, and I started getting back into it. And then I was telling the story earlier. I was just kind of getting back into racing, and then we were home for the weekend, and me and my friend Troy, actually, we were at home just hanging out, and he was having a crawfish boil at his house. So his sister came to pick us up, and we're driving in the car, and I remember her swerving back and forth, and I'm going from door to door swerving, and we're laughing in the car like it's a joke. I don't really remember her laughing because she was probably freaking out, but I remember me and Troy kind of like laughing, thinking that she was joking around, and then we just start rolling, and the last thing I remember, I'm like holding my head inside the window, and the car's like rolling on top of me.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't have my seatbelt on, and what's the crazy thing is pictures of the car after. The car rolled into somebody's yard and then hit a tree, and the tree smashed the top of the car all the way down to the seat that I was in, actually. So
holy cow.
If I would have been buckled in, there's no telling. It could have been much worse. But
you broke ribs, you broke your back,
Yeah.
you punctured your diaphragm, and you punctured a lung,
Yeah.
and you were tossed from the car at the very end of that scene.
Yeah, I was trying to hold myself into the car, is what the people that the car went into their yard. They saw the whole thing happen. And they said that I was trying to hold myself into the car, and the car was just rolling on top of me. And I broke 7 ribs, broke my back, my T9 and T10 vertebrae. I broke those, punctured my lung, had a collapsed lung, punctured my diaphragm. I was actually, while I was in the bed, I didn't eat for like 16 days or something, 2 weeks. I didn't get to eat any food or drink anything. They wanted everything shut down. But at the time that I was in bed, I had developed a blood clot in my shoulder. So I was on blood thinners for 2 years, had to wear a back brace for almost a year. It was like 9 or 10 months I had to wear a back brace. But at the end of it all, I came out the other side, and they said my back was stronger than it ever had been. And
wow.
So,
yeah. And then so junior year comes around in high school, and then what happens then?
That was kind of the first year that I got to experience football. I mean, the coach kind of was like, "You ever played linebacker before?" I was like, "No." "You ever played running
Sweeney
back?"
High School?
At Sweeney, yeah. I think we had a little over 100 kids in our graduating class. It was pretty
the name
small
Tank,
group.
though, came around before all of this? Because that would be kind of like a Tank moment, in my opinion, to go through that, and then miraculously start playing football after that. But where'd Tank come from?
I got the name Tank when I was about 18 months old. It actually was Man, and then it switched to Tank. It's Man. I would answer to it, and then a family friend just randomly was like, "He's like a little tank. Hey, Tank."
Yeah.
And then I turned to it. This is my mom's telling the story. And "Hey, Tank," and I just turned to it, and then ever since then, my name's Tank. I mean, all growing up through elementary, junior high, there's always that one teacher every year or two that's like, "I can't call you Tank," and it's like, "You're gonna call me Tank." At some point.
What is your legal name?
My legal name is Ricky. I'm a junior. That's my dad's name.
Very cool.
Don't call me Ricky. Anybody.
Yeah, most people, I'm sure they would not do that, right? All right, so you gave cycling a break to get your life back. Obviously, you had the wreck in between that, so that wasn't really, we have to consider that. But football comes in your life. You probably are pretty good at football, I'm sure, from early age. Safe to say. You get recruited. You're a 2-star recruit by rivals. TCU finds you heavily recruited?
No. I was heavily recruited by D3s and a couple of D2s. Had I think 4 or 5 scholarships, full rides to play at a couple D3 schools. I think Texas A&M Kingsville and West Texas A&M offered me a full ride. And then like 2 weeks before signing day, Coach Patterson offered me. But I mean, they weren't even recruiting me until Eddie Williamson, the O-line coach. Yep. He was at a game against LaGrange in the first round of the playoffs my senior year at football. And they were recruiting, I think, maybe a wide receiver from LaGrange. And
Ty Gunn, maybe, or is he later on?
I don't think. I think
that's the guy who's my neighbor. The one that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Oh, nice. There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea who he was recruiting, but I just remember the story being they were there to watch a guy. Coach Williamson was there to watch a guy from LaGrange, and I think we scored 31 points, and I had like 27 of the points because I was kicker, running back.
Oh, wow.
I played linebacker. I played quarterback. I mean, kind of put me where the ball needed to go, I guess. We're a small school, so you could play with a lot of positions.
So you said yes quickly, I'm assuming?
Oh, as soon as he offered it to me. I mean, I remember sitting at the old dial-up computer.
Yeah.
And,
you have mail.
Yeah. And Coach Patterson called me, and I remember dragging the phone around from the kitchen. It was on that long cord from the kitchen, and we drug it around the corner into my parents' bedroom was where the computer was, and he was like, how would you like to be a Horned Frog? I was like, I'd love to. He goes, well, I'm going to offer you a full ride scholarship. And I immediately took it right then.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, I'd have probably been at Texas State at a walk-on with all my buddies and no telling what would happen.
Well, you get to TCU. I assume things worked out okay. That's a joke. But how was
with JW?
Well, we can talk about that off air. How was life for you at TCU without football, without the football piece included? You obviously had a life other than football at some point, but I know football is all consuming. But
sure,
how was your experience
at TCU? Yeah, man, it was awesome. I had a lot of fun just getting to know everybody. I mean, I met my wife at TCU. I think it was the second semester. And it's funny, a funny story, a little off subject, but I actually had met her before I'd met her. It was actually at one of her parties. I went there with Vess, James Vess. And
JW's business partner, one of them.
Thank you, Brenton, for showing that.
Well, just in case other people don't know,
Yeah. And so we actually went there, and I just remember I'm getting beer out of the keg. And this little girl walks up and she's got like these high socks. I think she's dressed up like a baseball player, and she's like all snooty. She's like, that's my keg. And I'm like, appreciate it. Thanks. And that was it. That was the only interaction. And then I met her again at Snooki's after that. And that was the first time we met.
Snooki's now called the Tavern.
The Tavern. Yeah. That's right.
I never remember beer being at TCU, the Christian school that it was.
I don't think it was.
Well, and football players too. Football players drank beer.
Not that I ever saw.
Yes.
So I'm not sure.
It was NA beer.
So, keg of NA, yes.
So your career at TCU was going well. You were obviously in the mix, and things were going well. These games we talk about, the Rose Bowl, obviously. What would you say were Tank Carter's strengths as a linebacker? What made you the player you were?
I mean, man, I talk to the kids that I coach all the time about determination. I was just determined to not lose. I mean, I hated people getting over on me, whatever it was, and not just in sports, but just anything in life, man. I hated losing. So I was so determined, and I had speed. I think that's what helped too. I mean, obviously you got to have some talent with the determination, but I was just determined to win at all costs, and then I was pretty fast. So
you think that all that BMX, early in life, BMX training kind of helped with that competitiveness and stuff like that?
I think that outside of my injury that ended my NFL career, I always had healthy legs. My legs were always super strong. I mean, I could squat 600-700 pounds. I was always super strong in my legs, and I attributed a lot of that to racing bikes for the first 10 years of my life.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What was your 40 time?
At the combine, it was a 4.5.
4.5.
And then, but I got clocked on a watch when I was training for the combine, like 4.48 and stuff like that.
Britton, what was yours last week?
Well, I was thinking more about the squat deal, and I put up the bar and then a couple 35s in my home gym.
Is that when you had to go into traction the week?
It was post-COVID, so I wasn't my peak, it was just coming out of it. So,
Tank, when did you know you were really good at football?
Honestly, the first time I really was like, I'm pretty good at football was after the Utah game when I had that pick six. Nice. And I literally we were in the bowling alley after, and I'm sitting there talking.
Like a post-game ritual, like go
no,
bowling?
No, it
after
wasn't.
The game,
we just chose to go there after that game for some reason.
Let you drink beer there underage.
They had NA pitchers coming out the wazoo.
But we actually sitting there, and I'm talking to my sister, and like over her shoulder is kind of highlights, the week or the end of the day highlights or whatever, and it showed TCU, Utah, and it showed that pick six I had up on ESPN. I was like, holy cow. And then I was like, a lot of people I see up there go to the NFL, and it was like, that's when I realized I was like, I might be pretty good at football.
Nice. Nice. You've had that transitions to the Rose Bowl, the special moment. Is that the greatest moment? You already told me that the greatest moment's the Utah.
That's one of my favorite moments, but I'd say one of the greatest moments was winning the Rose Bowl. Not that actual
play, but the
actual
winning.
Winning the Rose Bowl was probably the greatest moment for me.
You're still close with Gary Patterson. You told us. How's the relationship these days?
It's good. It's good. I know that he's had to change his coaching style a little bit just with this new generation of kids, but it's. You gotta conform with the times to an extent, And but no, Coach Patterson, I see him as like second dad, man. He's taught me so much. And when I was at TCU, and I carry a lot of the stuff, and I always put it as a simple metaphor, like he was the seed to the drive that I have nowadays. Right. Like everything I do, man, he planted that seed early of don't back down. Don't matter how big you are. Don't matter how fast you are. If you want to kick someone's ass, you do it. So
I must tell you, Tank, that Brent and I, we were working on the set for you today, and I called Coach Gary and asked him to borrow the Rose Bowl trophy.
There you go.
Gary's very busy these days, as you can imagine. Yep. This is the TCU SMU football week, so
sure,
it may be busier a little bit than most weeks, but he flat out told me he could not do it. There's a party in town called the Jewel Charity Ball. Mm-hmm. It's the largest party. It's a charity benefit, but it's extravagant.
Nice.
They asked for it. He said, I can't do it. And because of that, he has to be consistent. He cannot bring it to the table.
Perfect.
For 1 hour of time is all I asked, but he cannot do it. So,
if you would have got to him sooner and he told you yes, he probably would have stuck with you.
We have a strategy. We're going to have Tank, who just referred to him as his second father, ask for the trophy and bring it with him next time. I should have asked you.
I'm telling you right now, if he told them first that he would do it, he's going to stick to his word.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that's right.
So how did you get into the NFL? So how's the NFL thing happen? So from all of that highlight, from TCU, then tell us about that.
Just kind of the whole process, you kind of wait for that call to the combine. And most of the time, there's guys that get drafted that don't get invited to the combine, obviously, but that was kind of the thing where I was waiting for that invite. And I remember walking through the airport. We were coming back from vacation, I think, after the season was over. My college career was done. It was January or so, I think. And I got that email, and I just remember taking off running through the airport like, yeah, got invited. That was, so it kind of started there. But it started way before that in school. Coach Patterson, dude, the drive and just not letting anything get in your way, really, it sounds cliche, but shit, I was only 195 pounds coming out of high school. I think I got up to 212 in my first 2 years in college. I think I was a starting linebacker in college for a Division I school at like 215, 214. And it was just use your speed, wrap them legs up.
What do you think the number one thing to kind of keep that mental focus of not getting down like that, like what that he maybe taught you or you got yourself?
I learned a lot from him, but I even try to tell my kids as affirmation, man. Like if you tell yourself you're going to intercept the ball, you tell yourself you're going to make it happen, you tell yourself that I'm going to turn this business into something in a year, whatever, you keep telling yourself that, you're going to have a shitload of failures throughout that time. But if you keep telling yourself you're going to do it and it's going to happen. And that's just the way I've lived my entire life. Like I've never, ever let the negative creep in of like, I can't do this. My favorite saying is can't, never could.
Yeah.
So it's a good one.
We've been saying that about this podcast a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
It works. So you're a 5th round pick by the Buffalo Bills. What happened there? You moved to the Browns very quickly, right?
Yep. So I was drafted there I guess the draft was around April, May. Yep. And then I went all through the summer at the Bills. We did our off-season workouts and stuff, and then camp. And the last final cuts with the Bills, I got released. And then the next day, the Browns called me and picked me up right then. And it just kind of never looked back. Coach Taves, forget his first name now.
Okay, Coach Taves. Yeah,
Coach Taves.
Most coaches don't have first names; they just have coach and the last name.
But no, Coach Taves, man, he was the first, I'd say, year or two was a lot of the reason why I was stuck around in the league. Honestly, just through special teams and being a solid backup.
5 years with the Browns, right?
6 years. 6 years. Okay. Six seasons. And then it wasn't till my 3rd year, 4th year that I started to realize, I need to go up here and have a relationship with these coaches. I need to go and stay in the film room an extra hour. I need to get there an hour earlier and I guess it come with maturity. You know, you mature a little bit and you start to understand things a little better.
Yep.
And I think that's what I got another 3 or 4 years out of it after that first 2 years of Coach Tabe's kind of keeping me around as a special teams guy.
Money you made good enough to transition
able to transition, start the business that I'm in right now. So
good. Well, we'll get to that here shortly, no doubt. 2017, you tore your ACL in the preseason game.
Yep.
That was the end, right?
That was it.
Once you hit that, you had to have surgery, and
I tried to make it back, and it was never the same. I didn't have that same confidence in running 20 miles an hour this way and then just stopping and cutting back and going the other way. You know, it wasn't there. And I kind of came to terms with it after I got released in June from the Browns in, I think it was 18? I think it was 18.
I think 17.
No, it was June of 18 when I was released. 17 was my last season because I was on IR that year.
Okay.
And then 18, I got released. I just signed a new contract in like May. It was my third deal with the Browns. And then they released me in June. And it wasn't until probably, I'd say December or so that I was like, I'm done. I didn't have the confidence in my knee anymore. And that's kind of when I was like, I got to find something else to do.
Surely.
What made you decide to come back to Fort Worth, not go back to Sweeney?
Or stay in Cleveland. That's a good question, Brendan.
I'd say a big part of it.
Oh, thanks, J-Dub. I have those from time to time.
Hey, Cleveland's not a bad place. They got a lot of good food out there.
Well,
that
imagine
was
if a pro football player, you probably could make your way in there pretty good too.
Yeah, there you go.
Business.
They did. They took care of their guys, man.
Yeah.
As soon as you go somewhere and they find out that you played for the Browns, it was kind of all expenses paid there.
Yeah.
It was they take care of their guys. They turn on you once they realize you're not going to make it to the playoffs. But then once the as soon as the season ends, it turns into we're going to next year. We got them next year.
Right.
You know.
Hope never fades.
So you kind of like get through that little downtime of, man, this is kind of over, but then you do decide to come back here. So was it because you're what? Was the family still here?
Right out front, it was because of my wife. Her family is in Decatur.
Okay.
And she real tight knit family, as is mine. But you know, they were here. We had all our kids at that time. And then she wanted to come back here. So we came back here, and that was originally. And then kind of as I started getting into, you know, other things outside of football and trying to start businesses and things like that, it was kind of, I'd say seamless. You still got to work your ass off to do it, but doors open a little easier, you know, just because of the sports aspect.
Yeah.
So it just kind of stuck. It's kind of working out.
Good. And then you started a business.
That's right.
Let's call that.
Where'd you get the name of that business?
This guy right there.
Carter Concrete. I think it's pretty catchy. If you zoom in, I don't know if you can do that, but if you look at the logo.
Oh yeah, on the top there.
Yep. So if you see
CC.
It's CC for Carter Concrete, but if you see it's got a T in it.
Oh yeah.
And it's got a C and then a sideways U.
Look at that.
TCU.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well played.
And it's also got TC for Tank Carter.
Who came up with that design?
Dude, it's actually funny. So we played with ideas and we played with hiring a graphic designer and it was just like, I'm not saying we kept hitting dead ends, but it was like, we're going to have to pay this graphic designer like $5,000 to build this logo that we didn't even know what we wanted.
Right.
So then we came across this website called Logo Tournament. And basically it was like $550 for like hundreds.
We've used it. Yeah.
Really. Hundreds and hundreds of different graphic designers around the world. Actually, somebody from India that I'm sure might not even speak English is who designed ours.
Yeah.
And we took it and loved it, man. And it looks like, so on the trucks, the flat part on top is kind of like a fender. And then you got your two mixer wheels. That's why we liked it. It was CC for Carter Concrete. It had TCU in the logo. And we just kind of told them what we wanted, but we had no even close to the idea of that rendering that they were going to come up with. And it was actually one of the first ones that got submitted to us on that website. And we just said it was always right there at the top. And when it came down to it, we picked that one, and I'm glad we did. It was
How many trucks do you have now?
We got 12.
12 trucks.
Yep, 12
Business is
trucks.
good, I assume?
Been good, man.
Good.
The construction industry is going nuts, and couldn't have picked a better time.
I have to agree with you. It's a good time to be doing.
How did you know concrete? Was somebody in your family?
Well, my dad, he's a home builder, so he does remodels and builds new homes. And
all he had to tell you was the biggest margins are on that concrete. Yeah.
I mean, still, construction across the board is only about 10 to 15%, so it's not like you're sitting here in the pharmaceutical business and just raking it in on your profits. But it was started with that of kind of in the forms. My dad would have me dragging concrete with his workers, and that's where it started. And then my father-in-law, my wife's dad, he had a concrete business in Saginaw. He actually had 3 plants and 75 trucks. and that's kind of how he made his money. And you know, I was gonna, you know, start a dumpster business for on-job dumpsters for contractors and stuff like that, and it just kind of evolved. And my father was like, "Don't do it. Don't get into it. You know, it's a headache. You know, it's very cutthroat, very competitive." And as soon as he said that, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like it was more of a challenge, and it's worked out.
Does your dad pay full price for this concrete, or do you get a special deal?
When I get a plant down there, I'll definitely probably
he's
give him
too far away right now.
Yeah.
What area do you service?
So Crescent is south of Fort Worth, and that's where the plant is. And we'll service 20 to 30 minutes outside, anything from that center point, 20 to 30 minute drive outside of that.
That's about all you can do, right? With,
I mean,
trucks?
you can haul it pretty far. I got a guy that works for me he's badass. His name's Ron Williams. He's a quality control guy. He's been around the industry for 20 plus years, and he can put different chemicals in the mix. I could drive to Alaska if I wanted to, and that concrete would still be good when I get there. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Inspiration in your life, heroes for you over the years? Anybody that comes to mind?
I mean, cliche to say, but honestly, dude, Coach P, man. Coach P is he taught me so much about just resilience and just to keep at it, you know. Don't let anybody tell you can't. And I never did, and I never will.
I think he's that way for a lot of people, Tank. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. So, well, listen, you know this. You're a nice guy. You're a good guy. You're a friend. You meant a lot to a lot of people. Hopefully you understand what you've done is to transition into people's lives in a meaningful way. Does that resonate with you? Do you understand what your accomplishments?
I think I was just talking about it earlier. You know, I love the football aspect of it, but like I want to be known for things outside of football because obviously that's the most obvious thing. You know, I want to make my mark and make my brand outside of that. Whether it be a businessman, a good person, a follower of the Lord, you know, whatever I choose it to be. And, you know, I want to be, you know, a man of many talents, but I don't want that one aurora of, you know, he was the Rose Bowl MVP and let it stop there. Right. You know, that's kind of what
Any linebackers you ever wanted to be like?
You know, it's funny. Brian Urlacher was kind of a guy. It was actually when I was coming out of college trying to pick an agent, and one of the agent, I forget his name now. I think it was Bill. But he was actually Brian's agent, and Brian actually called me when I was in college. Well, not in college, but as I got done with my college season, trying to pick an agent and go through that process. And he had called me, and he was always kind of a role model anyway. But I'd have to say Urlacher, if any of them.
You know, I'm going to take this moment here to interject something. There's a guy across from you that kind of has lived his life that way, that has real big on the football field. And I forgot to say, I appreciate you checking on me as much as you did during that whole time when I was down. But I do think, Tank, like just like you've talked about, and I don't know if it's because he was coached by Coach P too, if he taught you guys that, but there are a lot of really good people in this community that played football at TCU who, you know what, that's not their whole thing. You know, they've done a lot in this community too. So kudos to both you guys for that.
Did you know? Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Well, last couple of questions I was going to say is, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you? We have last question for all of our guests, but the craziest thing that's ever happened to you that you're willing to share with us?
With anything?
Sure, football or outside of football.
Probably that Isuzu Trooper rolling 8 times, man.
Okay, leave that one out. What craziest thing you've ever seen or been part of? That you want to tell us about? I've heard stories, but I'm not.
Give me a hint, and I'll see
if I can, because rumors are no good. You know,
well, perhaps these armbands we could have an
what the truth is or not.
You notice we came dressed for the show today. I got to throw a shout out to Matt Lewis over at TCU's assistant AD for football operations. Matty Lou. Matty Lou's been a good guy for over 18 years at TCU. But we all love you, Matty. So thank you for the armbands.
He's awesome, man.
Wanted to show up in style for.
But this was passed on to you by somebody, right?
It was actually DH David Hawthorne. I was just telling the story is he was actually in the locker right next to mine, and he's getting all juiced up, ready for the game, and he's getting amped up, and he's putting these armbands on, and I just remember thinking like, oh wow, this guy's cool, you know. And he kind of looks at me, he's like, "What's up, Rook?" or "What's up, Fresh Blood?" or something like that, and he's like, "You gonna carry on this tradition?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I will."
Yeah.
And so that's how it started, honestly, and it just kind of stuck, and it became kind of my trademark. The 500 armbands on my arm, cutting off my circulation.
Yeah, they're cutting off mine right now. I mean, I can barely touch the buttons on this thing. Yeah, so best day of your life, that's what we ask all our guests. You can't do family.
Besides family,
you know, that kind of thing.
Best day of
my
life.
You probably already heard this, but
I know.
If you want to say it again.
That win on the Rose Bowl was top notch.
Yeah.
But, I'd say, you know, and it's not there yet, but you know, the business kind of getting affirmation in itself that it's going to kind of make it, you know?
Yeah.
It was kind of like, cause
how old is
like
it?
I was saying, it's going on 3 years now, but our plant's only been operational 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of getting to a point now where it's, I'm not going to say running itself. I mean, it's still got to be there and manage it, but it's kind of gotten to a point where it's out there. People know about it. Great product, good service. And it's I'm not gonna say here to stay forever because anything can happen, but it's just feels good. Cause I mean, shit, dude, I put in 90, 100, 110 hours a week just for almost 2 years straight, just grinding it out, 18-hour days. And it finally now it's starting to get to where it's starting to pay off. So
you don't strike me as a guy when someone says you can't do it and then you put that kind of time and effort into it.
It never crossed my mind of the work you have to put in. It's just you do what you got to do. You know,
for sure.
How was it? It was portrayed. I can't remember how it was. It was you don't think about the end result. I forget, but you just work on the process and in your day to day. Don't be like, God, I'm going to put this many hours in this week, or I'm going to be gone this much, or whatever. It's like tomorrow I'm going to get this, and this done. And if it takes me 5 hours, cool. If it takes me 24 hours, cool. It's going to get done regardless. You know?
Yeah.
I thought of one more before we go. Tank, your pregame music. What'd you listen to before games?
Remember the Name. That was my song that kind of pumped me up. It was, I can't remember the tune now, but I remember the name of it.
Remember the Name.
Yeah.
That was the name? It's called Remember the Name?
Remember the Name.
Was it like a heavy metal kind of thing?
It was not heavy metal, but it was kind of like a rock.
Yeah.
It was 50% Pain. God, I can't think of it. I'm butchering it.
We're going to Google it after the show.
Yeah, we'll find it out for sure.
Well, Tank, thank you for joining us, man. We appreciate you very much. Those who want to stay followed up with FORTitude, roxomediahouse.com, and Twitter is FORTitude FW. Tank Carter, the legend in the house. Thank you, man, for joining us.
Thanks, Tank.
Thanks for having me.